It's here, finally time to build the Tamiya DB02 Leonis. Hey guys, welcome back to Tamiya Legends, and once again thank you for stopping by. So yep, this one I've been itching to build for a while, and I know some of you have as well. You've been waiting to see this build. It's gonna be off the scale. So not only am I building the new in-box Leonis kit, which would be cool on its own, but we have a shed load of Tamiya hop-ups for this build. I haven't quite got every one, but I've got all the ones that count for me anyway. And by the end of this build, it's going to be pretty incredible. So enough talk, I'll get all the bits out and let's get cracking. Right, my friends, so I've got everything on the table ready to start. Now, as I said, I've got a ton of hop-ups for this car, it's going to make the build a longer process to mix and match what we're doing. But right up the front, because I'm just looking where we start here, and it's obviously with the chassis and then the main centre gearbox. Now, it comes with a cast motor plate or gearbox, centre gearbox housing as it is, but the first hop up we're using is the one that's blue anodized. For me it's not obviously an essential hop up. It's more bling than anything, because as I say, the one the kit comes with is actually alloy. But yeah, and what I'm going to do, as we do every one, I'll hold up what it actually is so you can see the part number, should you be copying this build. So we've got that number one. There's also a motor heat plate, which is plastic in the kit, but obviously we've got the alloy one, and that's the part number for that. So I'm only showing you the bits that we're going to use straight away. Now, it's very important to let you know that I'm using a titanium screw set for this. And I'll be honest, I have no idea if everything's in there. Now, what I mean by that is there's some hop-ups that go on later on which are blue alloy, and they strengthen front and rear gearboxes, but they have long screws. I've no idea if they have those screws in titanium in this pack. So, and also, where is it on this? As you can see, that comes with some black screws there. So I'm going to use the titanium first of all, but I'm just hoping I'm not going to run out. I would imagine it said a screw set, so everything should be there. And then once we've got, obviously we're using the screws, once we've got those fitted, once we get on to section, whatever it is, what is it, section 2 there, then you would be putting your first gear, your centre gear in. But the kit doesn't come with a slipper clutch, and this is the next hop up, which is obviously the DB02 slipper clutch, and that's the part number for that. So yeah, straight off the bat we're sort of straight in heavily into the hop ups, which is awesome. So right, with that said, let's I'll tell you what, just before we actually start building, let me just show you this chassis, because this thing is so different from anything else. Which makes it super cool. You can get a carbon reinforced chassis for about €35. This is just a kit one. That's, again, for me, that's a hop up I just don't need. But yeah, if you're watching this video and you don't know how this build's going to come together, you're going to enjoy this one, because this centre section here is off the chart. Right, let's get building. Right, so as I said, the screw set is going to confuse me a little bit. So the first step was just to put this plastic arm in. Don't know what it does. Now, as you can see, I've used titanium screw there. And I don't know if that's correct or not, because there's a little plastic piece that's just gone in there. And as you can see, I've had to use the kit screws on there because the titanium screw set doesn't come with those screws. So yeah, as I say, this is the first time I've used a screw kit, so I may end up needing that screw for something else and have to replace it with a kit screw. I honestly don't know. Right, that's where we're up to. So that's stage 2 complete. Now, still a problem with the screws. So we've obviously bolted the main motor mount section down, and that is all with a titanium kit. So there's those two there, and then there's the 3 dome heads that go into the recess into the chassis. But there was 5 screws needed for this plate. which as you can see, that's how they go. So the titanium ones were slightly longer, so I thought, okay, we'll try them. So they did pop through here ever so slightly by probably an extra mil, but I was thinking, I was really unsure about it. But then when I put the fifth one in, which is this one, and that one screws directly into the motor plate, and the titanium one was too long. So I whipped them out and I've just gone. Now, there's two sets of screws. You get black ones in the actual kit, but then with the hop up, you got these stainless ones. So anyway, I fitted those. So it's a bit of a mix and match with screws, which I'm a little bit disappointed with. Kind of expected the titanium kit to cover everything. But I better shut my mouth because God only knows what we'll probably be left with at the end. And the only other thing we've done is fitted these foam dust protectors down there, which is a fiddly job. So that's that section complete. So moving on to that's only section 1. So moving on to section 2, that is the slipper clutch. Now, to confuse things, we build a slipper clutch in section 2 and then we mount it in section 3 with the bevel gears, but there's a correction sheet in there for this section. So as we get to that stage, I'll figure out what that is. But I'm looking forward to this bit now because this is putting this centre section together and it's very different. Right, on to the next step. Now, I've been at this about an hour, if not longer. This was very complicated to get it to this stage. And I can say straight away now I understand why this had so many problems if this wasn't set up correctly. So obviously the first thing we had to do was make the slipper clutch up. So yeah, no problems with that. Then I started to make these cups up, but of course I realised that I've got the hop-up universal prop shafts, which are these. So I had to make those up, and then obviously these ends were in the same pack, and the idea is that goes like that, but they're two different lengths. So yeah, I had to make that up. Now that means the kit instructions are just for the standard kit, and that gets shimmed up completely differently. And in the hop-up instructions, there wasn't a great deal of information. In fact, there wasn't any to shim these two sections up correctly. And boy, did that make it hard work, because I had to keep putting the circlips on the end of the bevels and gauging it right to get so there was taking the play out of it. So that was complicated. Yeah, enjoyable but complicated. So wow, yeah. So I've not got any grease on it yet. So the next stage is to grease it up, and then this plastic cover just drops on it and clips on like that with about 8 screws through it, and then that's that kind of centre section done. Again, no grease on it just yet. Oh boy, what a thing, what a thing. Yeah, I mean, you've got to spend the time and get that bit right, because if I put all the shims on that the kit told me to do, I couldn't get these bearings into the alloy mounting. And then obviously you could take a couple out, and then you get too much play in between the bevels. So yeah, you've just got to be patient. I'm pretty confident I've got it pretty much spot on, but yeah, I guess we won't know that until we run it in anger. Anyway, let's get that bolted down. Right, so that's it all greased up and sealed. I'm almost giving up on this bloody titanium screw set because it didn't have any screws for these 8 screws around here. Anyway, that's sort of bolted down tight now. Makes it a little bit harder to turn, but yeah, you get the gist of it. Get that grease around. So yeah, that's that section finished. So I'm on to step 4, which is to build both ball diffs. Oh, we love ball diffs, don't we? Interestingly, we're just digging the parts out. It comes with the alloy diff lock nuts, which I've not seen in the kit before, because first time I came across those was recently on the TD4 diffs, where it comes with plastic ones, and it looks like it's exactly the same thing. So that's a good, I was going to say it's an upgrade, it's a given that should be in the kit. So yeah, I'll get the diffs built off camera. Right, that's the ball diffs done. Always a pain in the butt, ball diffs. But yeah, they feel pretty good. They're complete now, ready to go in. Bearing's just fallen off. And I think I've got the tightness just correct. Put 2 Allen key either end to lock it, and then with your finger make sure you can't turn the big gear, and if you can, just nip it up until that stops. That's the key, but obviously they probably, after a couple of batteries, you should always check them again as well. Right, so looking at the manual, we're on stage 5, which would actually be the bevel gears for the gearboxes. But, and I don't know if I've shown you these, because I had to build this section up, I've built these are the universal prop shafts and the different lengths. So it's actually this section here we'll be using. So that's probably going to be a little bit more complicated with shimming up again. Anyway, let's have a look at that. Right, so that's the front and rear universal prop shafts with this bit done now. I've shimmed it up, but I guess I won't know how it feels until we get it in the gearbox. So, do you know what? It's funny, you know. I much prefer fitting hop-ups after the car's built, because this is not straightforward as it should be, in my opinion. Anyway, we're on stage 6, so that is what gearbox. So this is a rear gearbox now. So as you can see, we've got the diff built, we've got this built, but it's got the arm on. So that's all got to go in. But you see these bits here? That's the next hop up, which are these, what are they called? Upper arm mounts. That's the part number. And they go front and as a pair, front and back. And also, as you can see, the rear shock tower's going on. So I'm fitting carbon. That's the part number, should you be interested. So yeah, every step of the way we're having to dig these hop-ups out, and obviously they go together slightly differently. So instead of me building all these up now, I'll open these up, and obviously it's got its own instructions to tell us how to fit those. Right, so this is the rear gearbox housing now. I can't tell you, it's probably because of the way I'm doing this video, I'm not explaining it right why this is so difficult. But because I'm using so many hop-ups, you build it completely different to what the manual's showing you, and it is quite confusing because the hop-up instructions aren't as clear as I think they could be. So it's taken me double the amount of time. Anyway, this is the rear gearbox. So obviously the diff's in there, it's greased up, and that's the universal prop shaft which spins, and then we've got these hop-up suspension, whatever they're called. So that's all bolted down now. What I am gonna say, and it's very early days, but everything on this car just feels a little bit tight to me. And it's nothing I've done, it's the way it goes together. I guess maybe a battery or two and it'll free up a little bit, but I just think that centre gearbox should have been smoother. And then when I've got to this rear gearbox, and obviously I'm turning that, you know, it's not the smoothest thing in the world. But as I say, maybe with when I get some electrics in it, we'll free it up. But anyway, so, God, this is confusing. So the next thing now is to have a look at the carbon rear shock tower and bolt that to the gearbox. Okay, so that's the rear gearbox complete. So carbon towers on now with titanium screws. I'm mixing and matching. Wing mounts are on the other side, and that's tightened up. Now I have just put these standard shock top ball ends on, but no doubt I'll have to change them out when I'm sticking the big bore aerations on. But right, so that's that section. So looking at the manual now, we're up to stage 7, which is basically to grease this up and actually mount the gearbox to the chassis. Right, gearbox rear bolted down. There was you probably can't see it here, that plate there, which the arms are going to locate in, that went on with 4 screws, and then the gearbox is on with 4, all at the bottom. Obviously the universal prop shaft's in. Now the next stage to do, but I just left it off to show you, is the upper brace for it, and it really does flex. You got to really bend it back to make it fit. I think that's it. Yeah, so that's how that back end's going to look. And then if you see the uni prop shaft, see the angle it's at. Interesting design, this one. It really is. But yeah, so what I've got to do is find the 4 screws to screw that top deck down, and then we're just doing exactly the same but on the front end. It's to get that front gearbox put together. So I don't want to harp on and like how tight this sort of drive is, but it is. So all that is the bottom front gearbox housing, and the diff's in, and it's a really tight fit, and it clips in. You can push it down, but just turning that with your fingers, I mean, I'm used to that, and that should just spin really freely. Now, it's not free, but it's, I don't know, it's you know, it's not gonna spin, and I would have kind of expected it to spin sort of freely. It's odd. I was just looking at the drive chain. Obviously, the only way I can really turn it properly if I just put that onto the slipper. So that's like the overall. Again, it's not tight, but yeah, I'm not concerned. It's just, I don't know. It's gonna, hopefully it'll free up very quickly with a battery or something. But it just feels like the motor's going to have to work. But maybe, you know what these things are like. Maybe we'll get the battery in it. Once we get the wheels on and stuff, and maybe it'll feel different. I don't know. Right, so that's the front gearbox fully assembled. So these, I always forget what these are called. Gearbox mounts, the turnbuckles are on, the carbon front tower's on. Now we've got brass. We had black on the back. So that's finished, and as I say, so that's done. Now, looking at the instructions, we're moving on to stage 10. So before we mount the front gearbox in properly, we've got the steering to put in. Now, there's only one hop up for the steering, which is the main arm itself, aluminium steering bridge. That's that part. It's got a couple of bearings in it, and that's the part number, should you be interested. So we've got that to go on, and I'm just looking as well, and what the actual front gearbox mounts onto is this piece of gorgeousness. Now, I don't have a part number for you for this, but this actually is from the TRF 502X. So it will have a part number, but I got this from Keith. He sourced a couple of them. It's becoming quite a rare part, but you can find them, and they're not crazy money. So that looks like the next 2 hop ups. So we'll get them bolted on the chassis with the steering, and I'll let you see that before I actually put the gearbox onto it, if that makes sense. Right, so that's the steering in position, and that's how that works. Now, the only hop up steering wise is this full bridge. That's the only one you can get. I don't believe you can get these arms. I've never seen them. So this bridge comes with the 2 bearings underneath, but the kit does have those bearings as well. But there's 4 brass bushes that go 2 either side in the steering arms. So luckily I had the right size bearings, so I fitted the 4 bearings in there. So the steering is full bearing now, and super smooth as you would expect, but still loose until the top bit goes on. Now this is the TRF 502X bit. Now looking at it, let's see if I can show you this. Do you see that gap? Well, I've got my nail through there. So you see those 3 holes? This, you can. I don't want to turn it upside down because the steering's going to fall out. Let me just see if I can hold it. Yeah, you see that gap there? That's not good, is it? So, to be honest, I don't actually know if this was a confirmed hop up for the DB02. I know plenty of people who have used it. And also the plastic part is supposed to hold on with 3 screws, whereas this only takes 2. Don't know if that'd be a problem in a crash, but as I say, I don't know too much about that. But it looks good, and then that's going to go in there, and that gearbox sits like that. So that's going to be the next stage. I'm just looking at the instructions. So we've just finished 10. 11 is putting the gearbox, bolting the gearbox down, and then it's the other top deck which all holds the steering down. So yeah, let's get that done. Right, so that's the front end completely, or mainly bolted down. So the top deck's on, 2 bolts into the aluminium motor mount, 2 straight into the front chassis, and then there's a washer and a nut that just clamps the steering fully down. There's 2 body posts in the front. Yeah, it's quite a thing, isn't it? It's very different indeed. I've been at that all day, and that's it. That's all I'm up to. That's pretty incredible. But I guess I really took my time on that centre section. Hopefully that'll pay off when we run it. But yeah, right. Let's bat on. Right, it's the morning after, and yeah, this was frustrating. When I finished this to that stage last night, I was like, that drive train isn't free enough. Now, I was trying to figure out in my head what to do, and I was thinking, the thing is, when you put the bits, obviously you build the diffs first and then you fit them. Sorry, the centre section, and it was relatively free, but there was just something that was saying that's just a little bit. There's a little bit too much force on it needed to turn it. And then again, when you do the gearboxes, and I was spinning, it was like there's just a little bit too much tension there. And then of course you add all 3 together for the overall, and it is too tight. So I've decided this morning, before I go any further, I need to figure that out. Now I thought I'd start with a gearbox. Now what the instructions tell you to do is, if I take that off. So there's a big bearing that goes at either side, but before you put the bearing on, you slide these O-rings over, one either side, and then the bearing. Now, if I do that, let me just take this out. When I did that it was a really, really tight fit. You really had to kind of squeeze the bearings in. So what I've done is, now, don't shout at me, I understand the O-rings there, probably to keep the dirt out, not too sure. So I'm using shims instead, which I had already. You may get them in kit, I'm not sure, but I had these already. And I've got 2, what are these? These are 0.2mm, and I've got 2 at either side, which means it's got no movement side to side, which the O-rings did. But now that spins completely freely. And then I thought, okay, we better check this for the sort of the shimming I've done on it. Let me just fit this in. Sorry, I'm doing this around camera. So that goes in there, and that goes there. So if I hold that down and then I just spin, that is way better now. So yeah, I mean, rightly or wrongly, this is what I'm going with. I'm saying that keeps dirt out. I'm not that sure, because anyway, whatever, it doesn't really matter for the amount of running this thing's gonna do. So what I'll do now is, I'm happy with that. I'll put that front end together, but I will. No, do you know what? I won't, because now what I'll do is, and I'll do it off camera quickly, I'll now do the same on the rear to get the both front and back gearboxes the same. And then what we'll do while we've got his top deck off, we'll whiz this centre section off, disconnect the prop shafts, and I just want to go through these bits because I may have shimmed them too much. Again, anyway, I'll come back when I figured out what I need to do. Right, so I'm up to this stage. So, front end, O-rings out, O-ring either side out, 2.3 shims in either side. Onto the rear, same with the O-rings out. Now, just show you, sorry this is difficult around the camera, but you get the idea. If I just put that in position, sit that one on. So when I come to feel, when this is clamped down, it actually doesn't make a difference. But if I press down on it, so that's the front one now, and that is way freer than it was. And do the same with the rear. Sorry, I'm hiding this with my arm, but again. Now what I did do with this one, I took a shim out of this because this one just had a tiny little bit of play, and it just feels better, and this one didn't. This was a little bit tighter. So now I've taken the shim out, so they match. So happy with that. Then we got on to this centre section, which I was thinking was maybe too tight. So obviously the lid's off, and if I do the spur gear with my finger, that feels pretty good, to be honest. Now, I'll just show you something else. So obviously I needed a sort of comparison. So that's with the other two bevel gears out. So that's just a slipper clutch. So I felt that. And exactly, you know, great fit in there, no play, or very tiny bit. But you spin the spur, you know, feels great. Then take that section out, these sections in, just to feel what they feel like. And again, they feel great. So the question is, for me, that's what it feels like without those other two bevels meshing. And then with it back in, what does it feel like when it's all together? To me, there is a little bit more resistance, but I think you would expect that, adding the two bevels on, but I certainly don't think shim-wise they're pressing too hard against it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the adjustment at that now. I mean, that's all you can really do, isn't it? What I'll do is, because obviously I know how it felt when I was turning this before, we'll get it all connected back up now and say, but I can't do any more. The front and back gearboxes are fine. And the centre section, to me, it feels fine. Let's pull it all back together. Right, just found something out. So as I said, without the lid, even not with the lid on, just pressing it down, it felt pretty free. But it does, once the lid compresses down, it does make it a little bit tighter. So a massive thank you to Lee, who I've just called my buddy. Lee used to actually race a DB02. So I told him, I went through the steps I've done, and he actually said that the TRF 502, the fronts are very similar, and they don't have the O-rings, they use shims. So I'm pretty happy with what I've done there, and that's definitely freed it up slightly. And he did say centre section, he thought there was a little bit of resistance there on his. As I say, I'm turning it now. If I just put that onto it just to get a little bit more control. You know, it's free. It's just kind of not as free as I would have expected. Lee also just went on to say this thing makes quite a noise, quite a unique noise when it's running. He said when he was blasting it down the straight, it's you can kind of hear the centre section. So that's going to be interesting when we come to run it. Anyway, I think this was definitely worth doing, just for my own peace of mind, basically. So what I'll do now is I'll connect it all back up and get back to where we were. Right, and we're back from where we started last night. But I am definitely feeling way happier now. I've got a much more confidence to run it now. And if I just do that, that's a lot freer, even though that is putting a lot of, well, it's putting a little bit of load on that centre unit. That's way better. So now let's get cracking. So we're up to stage 13 on the manual, and it's the rear arm assembly. So I've just dug through the remainder of the hop-ups because I'm doing the rear arms, and I couldn't remember if I'd bought universal drive shafts for the rear, but I haven't, just the fronts. But while I was looking, I forgot to fit this. So this is the aluminium rear suspension mount, and it's the front, which is this bit here that I've already fitted in plastic. Now I'm hoping it's just these 4 bolts, and it's going to slide out, and then I can slide this one in. But this only goes in with 2 bolts, which is interesting. So yeah, let's look, I'll show you the part number as well. There you go. Right, let's hope I can get this in. Right, that was easy enough. Unbolted the 4 bolts and just lifted it up and slid it out. Now, as I said, this plastic one was held down with 4 screws, whereas the alloy one, can you see that? So it's this bit here, which gives us, yeah, that's not showing up, so that's for your arm location. But that only gets fastened down with two. So I had 2 screws free, which was a bonus because I had to put screws into this one originally because I didn't have the right sizes in titanium. So now I've got the full titanium screw set underneath, bar those 5 which we haven't got. Although I may see what's left over. It'll depend on how much, because the titanium ones I've got slightly longer than these, so it'll depend if this impedes the motor. If it doesn't, then I'll swap them out for the titanium ones. and I think everything else is titanium underneath, apart from those two little ones, but that doesn't matter. So right, now we'll crack on with the rear arms. Right, that's the rear arms built, very straightforward. Got to be careful using the correct spacers at either side. Right, also the rear turnbuckles are made up, so that's another turnbuckle hop up, and that's, you'll need 2 sets of 3x42s. Should you be copying, that's the part numbers. Now the next stage is to get the dog bones out, put some O-rings inside the cups, and then mount the arms on. But just so you're aware, this is where the second hop up for the rear arms comes in, which is the rear suspension mount, and the rear one, which is this thing here. That comes with 2 spacers as well. So I'll get that all together now. Right, that's the rear arms on. It's starting to look like a car now. Looks cool with all the blue bits, I've got to say. So arms are on, dog bones are in. You have to put 3 O-rings in that side and none in that side. It's really odd, but yeah, the arms are nice and free. You can actually, for the first time, sort of spin the diff, and that feels nice and smooth. I'm liking these alloy plates that hold the arms on front and back. It's kind of cool. Obviously you don't get them for the front, you're using the TRF 502 big plate, which kind of does the same, but in a different way. So yeah, that's starting to take shape now. So next up is we're on to step 15, which is basically the front assembly, and this is the first time where I've got where are we? My only non-Tamiya hop up, is this from Jazz Rider. I'll fit these. There's no part number for you, unfortunately, but if you type in, go to Jazz Rider or go to what's it, Jazz RC website, and just type in DB02 and these bits come up. As I say, I will go to fit them, but if there's any slop or play in them, I'll just go and use the kit ones. And obviously, just realised now I'm building the front end, then I have to build the front universal drive shafts up. That's your part number. I think these are TRF 502 as well. They may also fit in the other cars. Anyway, we'll get these built up now. So I just thought I'd show you quickly that in the front drive shaft set, it comes with 2 bearings, which it tells you to use. I think they're a different thickness from the kit ones. And this is the first time I've ever built double cardan, and they're very different if you've never done a double before. But yeah, they seem really cool. I guess these are kind of super high end for the TRF buggies, I guess. Although I don't remember my 503 having these, but I guess it must have done. Right, we've got those built, so yeah, let's crack on. Right, I don't think I'm going to use these. It's tighter. Now these are actually threaded, so the screw here that goes in either end, the threads are at the top of the screw and only thread into the plastic, and then it just pins this bit. But yeah, and I've even greased it, so just to give you, if I put my thumb on it and turn it, you know, that's taking a bit of force to do, whereas the kit one, I mean, it's still got a little bit of pressure to it, but nowhere near this one. So yeah, I might save those for a rainy day, but I'll take that one off and we'll put the kit one back on. Right, that's the front arms made, all the bits on that need to be. Obviously it's got the universal drive shafts on. Turnbuckles are made, so again, it's exactly the same set we used before, which is the 3x42mm ones. There's 2 pairs of those, obviously front and back, and then there's another set coming for the steering. But yeah, I'm curious now to see how this all fixes on that alloy front end, so yeah, let's do that. And that's the front end on. So yeah, very straightforward. There's 2 big pins that you put a circlip on, but only at one end. It just locates on the inside, and then you get this metal plate. Now in the kit, this is the metal plate you get, alloy, which is cool. But yeah, shout out to Keith. He actually got this made and attempted to try get the matching anodizing to the Tamiya blue, and it's not a million miles off, but it is slightly a different colour. But I've heard that before. A lot of people seem to have problems sort of getting this colour match. Actually, as well, a big shout out to Gregory, who's built a DB02 to this spec, and he had a spare one which is actually in the Tamiya blue. So I'm guessing that's a TRF 502 part, I'm guessing. So when that comes, it's just a case of, there's a front bumper to go over that, but it's just a case of undo with 2 screws and then the pins pop out and I'll change it over. So that's bolted down. Now the only other thing I've done, I've done the steering arms, as you can see. I've jumped forward slightly, but I just wanted to make sure, well, it just keeps it all together. Now, if you are following and copying, this is a steering turnbuckle arms, which are the 3x32s, so they're slightly smaller than the front and back ones, should you be interested. Right, so where are we up to? I think on the manual now, it's time to build the shocks, but I'm going to bypass that and I'm going to go through the manual and just, like, I don't know what there is, but I think there's a front and back bumper to fit, there's a servo mounts to fit, there may well be other stuff, I don't know, but I'll just go fit all that basic stuff because I'm going to leave the shocks to last because there's a bit of work in that. Right, so I've basically got everything on there now, obviously not the shocks yet, but yeah, let's go through quickly what I've done. So front bumper's on now, it's just quite a tidy little unit, so I've got mainly the titanium screws everywhere I want now. So there's 2 there and then there's just 1 at the front. Also, I've got the sway bar mounts in. That's an optional extra, but I don't think I've ever seen them come up for sale, if I'm honest. But definitely doesn't need them. And then onto the rear, we have exactly the same. Well, we have this rear plate over now, protecting the alloy. So that's with 2 titanium. And again, we've got the sway bar mounts in there. So that is that. I've also put the servo mounts in and the correct screws, and again they're titanium underneath, so they're ready now for a servo. And then moving along the battery area, so it's 2 body pins here, pull out, this lifts off, slide your battery in, that this end's kind of fixed off. Now these are the plastic chassis strengtheners it comes with, but these carbon ones are a hop up, and I'll just get you the card. Just put the card down so I can hold that properly. So rear suspension, rear chassis strengtheners. So you get 2 in a pack. Now what I should have done, I should have ordered an extra pack, because what I've seen people do is they put 4 carbon ones across. So get rid of the kit ones and put another carbon one down there. The cheapest chips, so I will order another set. Also, this little bit here is now bolted down. That the rear body rests on that. It's got body posts at the front, and it just rests on that. And then there's some Velcro down the side somewhere that holds the body on. I've got the wing mount plates on now, and the screws are in there. And I'm pretty certain that's everything I need at the moment, because I could put the bearings in and put the wheels on, but I've got to build the aeration shocks, which is quite a big job because I'm sure we'll have to do some internal spaces. And I've just remembered I missed a bit, and it was the most trickiest bit on the car, believe it or not. So that titanium screw there and this plate, this plastic plate, is there to protect the keep dust and crap out from the pinion, which is really cool. But yeah, that's only held in with 1 screw, and it's sort of, you can see, try to get your finger in to get into position. But I quite like it because it kind of seals that section now, and then obviously once your motor's sealed in there, it'll keep the grime out. So yeah, as I say, I'll just try to think now. There is only the aeration shocks to build and then put the wheels on, but there will be some probably spacers and shims to go in there before I put that last bearing in there. But yeah, that's kind of cool. Right, let's crack on. Right, so just before I dig the shocks out, I thought I'll just obviously dig all the bits I need to get the wheels on. So rears, I dug some blue wheel nuts out, which was really cool. So there's a spacer to go in first, then the bearing, then this blue plate, and then the pin, and then the rears. If you don't know, same as the DB01, they locate straight onto the pin. There's no hex adapter. But on the fronts, we've got a spacer, then bearing, then the pin, and then we have these 10mm hexes where the pin locates, if you can see that. So again, same as DB01, same as the TRF cars as well, or certainly same as the TRF 503. So the front wheels, 10mm hex. Slightly disappointed with something, and I don't know, hopefully it'll come across on camera. The rears have a slight red colour to them, and if you can see how sort of neon the fronts are, they look epic. But yeah, that's a little bit disappointing, and it's not just that one wheel, it's the both sets. To me it's like they've had some red in the dye or something, but it's not going to matter, is it? So I'm going to get them installed next, and we have some more colour to it. That looks kind of cool. I'm really liking that. Yeah, everything's obviously, there's no shocks on, but I'm just showing you how free everything is. Yeah, I like that. So yeah, shocks next, and the shocks are built. I chose to do that off camera. If you're really interested in how the TRF aeration big bores go together, just type that into my channel, and there's a full video just on the shock builds. Yeah, these are gorgeous. So right now there's no oil in these because I've got no internal spacers yet. Obviously we have to adjust that onto the car individually. So because there's no oil, there's no, where is it? There's the little screws not in there for the I don't know what you call it, how the aeration bit of it works. But yeah, I've gone with red springs all around, rightly or wrongly, don't know. What I've also done, I don't know if you're aware, but the way these shocks go on are slightly different. So I've now got all the bits on for the aeration. So that's the way the tops go on. Bottom one is just a screw. On the rear, it's a screw, and then the same on the rear shock tower. So yeah, what we'll do now is we'll just get the shocks fitted. Yeah, and look at that thing. Oh my word. That is so nice. I absolutely love it. So again, no oil in the shocks, no internal spacers yet, and that's its full. That's the shocks fully extended. And obviously, once you get your tyres on, you'll be up here. So it's way too high at the moment. So front shocks on. God, aeration shocks are just gorgeous. Absolutely love them. And then obviously the rears, as you can see. The only thing I was a bit concerned about, and I don't know, if you see the fronts, oh no, actually, they are facing backwards very slightly. But it was the rears. I thought they were a little bit sort of to the back. But that is actually per Tamiya's instructions. So I would guess, and it's a bit pointless guessing right now, but let me just fully extend everything. So I would think your arms want to be just like that, round about there. So I think that's going to be roughly where it is, and obviously the tyres will take the rest up. So I probably am going to have to put some internal spacers in just to see what's what. So yeah, I think next stage, just before we finish this video, let's whiz the wheels back off and get the tyres on, and then we'll have a much better sort of appreciation of what I need to do next. Right, what I have just done, I wasn't happy with the angle of the shocks. They were both facing back too much in my opinion. Now, obviously we've gone to carbon shock towers, and I was just sort of having a look. Now, there is a recess bit on the rear and a little bit on the front, but nevertheless you can see the thickness of those things. So the shocks with the plastic towers, they would have been further forward. So I've changed the screws out now, and I've put those blue spacers in front and back. And I think what that gives us, I don't know if we can really show this on camera, let me see if I can. So that's a better angle for me, front and back. They are both very slightly facing backwards, but that is probably a design feature, I would guess. That may be something we play with when it's running. I certainly don't think I'd add a spacer, but you know, there might be an occasion to take one out. I don't know. We'll have to see how that works. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Sorry, trying to move the camera around. Yeah, that is that's pretty awesome. I really like that. Now let's whiz the wheels off and get the tyres on. Okay, so a couple of things now. So that's the shocks fully extended, and you can see it's ridiculously high. That's probably almost 2 inches. Anyway, that was always going to be the case. So before we talk about the ride height, it's the sort of first opportunity where I can actually feel the diffs. So front diff, yeah, it feels really nice. And then we've got the rear. Yep, that feels great. And then obviously we can feel the overall drive. Now, there is resistance with it, which I said earlier. Let me just move this back slightly. So it's, you know, it's free, but it's not. In my opinion, it's there's more resistance than anything else I've ever built before. But I'm sure we'll get some wear after a battery or two, and that might free up. My only concern is, you know, if that's, I don't know if that's how it should have been, but so my only concern is it's going to put the motor under a little bit more load. It's going to have to work harder, but that is what it is, I guess, because we're at that stage now where the next thing for that is to run it. So what I'm going to do next, let's just move this across, is the ride height. So again, that's just that's just way too high. So I'm going to bring it down to about there, I think that's where it's going to sit, and that's plenty. I'd say, oh god, what's my finger? That's about 10. I'd say that's probably about 18 to 20 mil clearance, which me personally is absolutely fine for this buggy. So yeah, now what I'll do the next stage off camera, because it's a lot of messing around to get this right, but now I've got to take the shocks back off and fit the internal spacers, then put it all back together, make sure I'm happy with the ride height, and then dismantle, take the shocks off again, and then fill them with oil properly. So yeah, I'll do all that off camera. Right, that's everything finished. Yeah, I've dropped it a lot. We're now running 21 mil clearance, but actually we've got a tiny little bit of rake, which I didn't do on purpose. At the back, when I measure it, it's 21 millimeters. At the front, it's very close to 20, so it's only a mil difference. But yeah, that took me about an hour and a half. It's just trial and error, just trying to get everything matched up. Probably do with softer springs now. I'll definitely have some. I just need to look. But yeah, it's and all the shocks are filled correctly now, because I don't know if you've ever done aeration big bores, but it's quite messy. If you've got a little screw here that's when you get the kit, it's out. So you fill the normal damper up with oil, get rid of the bubbles, and then you fill the cap up, and it's a really messy job of screwing it down while the piston's fully extended. This hole, so you obviously get a lot of oil that comes out, and then you got to compress it all the way down until all the oil comes out, clean it up, and then put that in. So yeah, it's quite a mission, but they feel good. They feel good. As I said, just a little. The front is really good. It's quite soft. Back's a little bit harder, but obviously that's bare. There's a battery that sits right across here, which is going to give us a bit more weight. Obviously mid-motor mount and whatever. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. That's kind of just how I want it. Feels sort of, you know, if you hold it in the middle, all feels that it's doing what it's supposed to do. What a thing, my friends, what a thing. Well, what a thing, my friends. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I have putting this car together. No idea how long this video is, but if it's a long one, normally I'd apologise, but no, I think something like this needs to be. What a thing. Yeah, I mean, there's not much I can tell you now, ending this video, that you don't already know. Just so different from anything else I've ever built. I mean, first of all, it's so different from any other Tamiya, but just in general, with that weird double prop shaft and that centre gearbox mechanism, it's just crazy. It really is. And then, of course, we've got the all the hop-ups that we did, and that was just fantastic. Yeah, quite possibly, obviously I've just done this, but this is honestly quite possibly the best build I've done so far. I've just loved every second of it, and don't get me wrong, as you know, I've been pulling my hair out with certain bits of it, but yeah, just absolutely splendid. There's a word I never use. The build was splendid. So, wow. So yeah, that's actually taken me 2.5 days to get to this stage, and that's not like an hour here, an hour there. That's the first 2 days were around about sort of 7:30, 8 a.m. start till around about 3, 4 p.m. And then today I was at the shocks at 7:30 this morning, and it's 1 p.m. now. So yeah, over 2.5 days. Incredible. A lot of work's gone into that, but yeah, extremely enjoyable. So yeah, next up for this, in the next video, whenever that's going to be, I'm going to do it all in the next video. So it'll be, first of all, the body shell, the paint, the decals. We'll get all that finished. While I'm waiting for the paint to dry, I'll be fitting it with electrics. Probably going to go over to super stock BZ motor, run it on 2S, and then on that same video we'll get it out running, get its first run under its belt, and I'm really curious to see how it goes, more sort of what noises it makes. I've got a feeling it's going to sound pretty different, but anyway, I don't know. So yeah, leave in the comments what you think, my friends. It's such a rare car because basically it was a flop, so to have one and, you know, almost fully hopped up for my collection is just absolutely fantastic. Anyway, as you can see, I'm like a kid in a sweet shop at the moment. Yeah, so yeah, again, as always, my friends, thanks so much for watching. It's massively appreciated. If you're new to this channel, maybe give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, turn all those notifications on. That'd be absolutely massively appreciated. And as always, my friends, the 2013, or is it 14? No, the TRF 503 was 2014. So the 2013 Tamiya DB02 Leonis. What a thing.